Director Pearson offered her resignation today because she believed that it was in the best interests of the agency to which she has dedicated her career. The Secretary agreed with that assessment. The President did as well.
Noted author Jimmy Breslin many years ago wrote a novel loosely based on the life of career mobster Joey Gallo. The gang that couldn't shoot straight detailed a group of nitwits who couldn't do even the simplest tasks they were assigned and became the laughingstock of their industry. It's not really a joke in this case, but put the Secret Service in place of the Gallo mob and the book would read almost the same. For certainly, the issues about wandering around in a clueless state of mind might seem to fit perfectly. Now let's get some facts. Welcome to Midpoint. The first Assistant Secretary for Policy of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security under the presidency of George W. Bush, former General Counsel of the National Security Agency, Stewart Baker. Stewart, thank you so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure.
How much of what we have seen happen with the Secret Service in the last week or so boils upward, if you will, to administration, leadership, and right to the president?
I actually think a fair amount of this does. The Secret Service has always seen itself, no matter what agency they're really part of, as working for the president, as having a personal relationship with the president, as they do. And so they get their direction, they get their management clues, they build their sense of what they should be doing around what the White House and in particular the president wants. And in this case, I think they sort of assumed that if they didn't tell the president about things that would make him mad, he would be happy and they would be doing their job.
All right, now what you just said there, I think, leads me to the devil's advocate position here, because let's just play the other side. The president is a busy man. He has a lot on his mind. The last thing he needs to be worried about is whether or not the people protecting him and his family are actually doing their job. He has a staff to do that. He has other people to take care of that. So is it not possible that he is completely clueless in this and had no idea this was going on, unless, of course, we remember the bullet holes in the window?
I'm not sure that I would say I blame the president for the failures of the Secret Service, but I do think you have to recognize that they were reporting to him, and if they weren't reporting things, it's because they believed that they could get away with not reporting things, and that would be the best way to maintain their position in the administration.
That getting away with it is the next point here, I think, that we have to talk about, because certainly as you look at what's happened here, Julia Pearson apparently was supposed to know what was going on, but now we have word that maybe there were things, of course, that she didn't pass on to the president. She's part of this problem. She stood there in front of the committee and said that I'll do whatever I can, but if you look back, she's a 30-year member of the Secret Service. She was embroiled in the culture. She was taught in the culture, so how could she possibly know anything different?
Well, when you get to that position, you have to manage, and you have to manage with an eye to the rest of the world. You can't just assume that this is all about how the institution functions. So I think she didn't have the vision and the perspective, or maybe the independence to do things that she should have done. It's very tempting when you're in the government not to dwell on the mistakes, especially if nothing bad happened. And I suspect that part of this is that she didn't see the importance of creating a process in which mistakes were brought to light and learned from, as opposed to pushed aside because nothing bad happened.
All right, now I'm not going to put words in your mouth or anybody else's here, but what you just told us, couldn't that be put under the title of a cover-up?
I don't think they thought of it that way. I think they just thought of it as the president's a busy man. Why would we bother him with this? And who else would we talk to about it?
Is it fair to say that we're talking about an agency, and what we're seeing here and over years is really, in many ways, unfortunately, very dysfunctional?
I think there are some real issues there. It is an agency. When it was at the Treasury, the Secretary of the Treasury had no particular interest in overseeing the Secret Service. They did something that was completely alien to his focus on the banks and the financial industry's health. At DHS, the Secret Service has been very clear that they don't think that the Secretary of Homeland Security really has much to say about how they do their operations. And so the only management they got was either from the White House, which, as you said, is very busy and has its own set of priorities, or from their own internal culture. And their own internal culture tended to protect the rest of the institution and not to focus on how do we make ourselves better, how do we make sure that mistakes don't proliferate.
You just mentioned the DHS. We're going to take a break, come back and talk about that and so much more. After the break, then the bigger picture of the government that seemingly doesn't care and how it affects your safety, right here on Midpoint.